From beyond the veil of the Force, infinite paths stretch before us. Choices made and unmade, destinies fulfilled and averted. Today, we explore one such path. What if Anakin Skywalker rejected both the Jedi's blind serenity and the Sith's destructive hunger? What if the Chosen One forged a third way, standing between the storms of light and darkness? The lightsaber fell from Count Dooku's severed hands, clattering against the metallic floor of the Invisible Hands observation deck. Anakin Skywalker stood over the kneeling Sith Lord. Both blue blades crossed at the old man's throat, his breathing heavy from the duel. Chancellor Palpatine's voice cut through the moment like a blade itself. "Good, Anakin. Good. Kill him. Kill him now." Anakin's eyes locked with Dooku's. There was no defiance there, no rage, only something unexpected. Resignation, perhaps even relief. The Count's lips moved, barely a whisper. "We are both fools, Skywalker. Pawns in games we thought we controlled." The blades came down in a single motion. But as Dooku's head rolled free, Anakin felt no triumph, no satisfaction, only a hollow clarity that would change everything. He just killed an unarmed prisoner at the Chancellor's command. The Jedi Code forbade such actions. Yet here he stood, having done exactly what his political ally, a man the Council itself trusted, had ordered him to do. The war had made monsters of them all. Over the following months, that clarity festered like a wound that wouldn't heal. The Clone Wars ground on, world after world reduced to ash and memory. Anakin fought with the same ferocity, led with the same tactical brilliance that had earned him the title Hero with No Fear. But inside, something fundamental had fractured. The Jedi preached detachment, yet sent him to wage their war with attachment to victory. They spoke of peace, yet commanded armies. They warned against emotion, yet fear drove their every strategic decision. The Council's meditation chambers reeked of anxiety, poorly disguised as wisdom. And when they finally offered him a seat on that very council, they denied him the rank of master. Anakin stood in the council chamber, surrounded by the galaxy's most powerful Jedi, and realized with startling certainty that they were afraid. Not of the Sith, not even of losing the war. They were afraid of him, of what he represented. A power they couldn't categorize, couldn't control, couldn't squeeze into the neat boxes they'd built over 1,000 generations. "The Council has given you a great honor, young Skywalker," Mace Windu has said, his tone suggesting the opposite. Obi-Wan had tried to smooth it over, tried to explain the politics, the tradition, the necessity of patience, but Anakin saw through it now. The Jedi Order wasn't built on wisdom, it was built on control. Control of the Force, control of their members, control disguised as serenity. The Sith, at least, were honest about their hunger for power. Enjoying our alternative Star Wars universe? Consider liking and hitting the hype button to show us your support. Don't forget to subscribe for more mind-bending tales from the Star Wars universe. The revelation came in Palpatine's office, amid the warm glow of sunset over Coruscant's endless cityscape. The Chancellor had been the one constant in Anakin's life since he was 9 years old. A mentor when the Jedi were distant. A friend when Obi-Wan couldn't understand. A father figure when... "I know what troubles you, Anakin." Palpatine's voice was gentle, almost sad. He stood at the window, his back to the young Jedi Knight, his reflection ghostly in the transparisteel. "The Jedi Council doesn't trust you, and you've begun to realize why. They sense your power, and they fear it, just as they feared me." The world seemed to slow. Anakin's hand drifted toward his lightsaber, but didn't complete the journey. "The Jedi and the Sith are similar in almost every way, including their quest for greater power," Palpatine continued, turning to face him. "The difference is that Jedi are hypocrites. They claim to serve the Force, but in reality, they seek to dominate it, to impose their narrow interpretation on the entire galaxy." "You're a Sith Lord," Anakin said quietly. Not a question, a statement of fact. "I am," Palpatine acknowledged, spreading his hands as if the admission cost him nothing.
I am also the man who has guided you, supported you, believed in you when your own order doubted. I am Darth Sidious, yes, and I am the only one who can teach you to save the one you love."
Padmé. The visions had been growing worse, night after night. Her screaming in childbirth, her dying in his arms, the same visions that had heralded his mother's death.
"I know the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise,"
Palpatine said softly.
"The power to prevent death, to keep those we love from fading into the Force. The Jedi would call it unnatural. But then, they called your very birth unnatural, didn't they?"
Anakin's mind raced. Everything he'd believed, everything he'd fought for. It was all fragmenting like the hull of a ship caught in a gravity well. The Chancellor was a Sith Lord. The Sith Lord. The architect of the war that had consumed the galaxy for 3 years. And yet, you're right about the Jedi, Anakin heard himself say. They are hypocrites. They're so afraid of the dark side that they've blinded themselves to their own shadows. Palpatine smiled, sensing victory. But the Sith, Anakin continued, his voice hardening. The Sith are just as broken. You speak of the tragedy of Plagueis, but that tragedy is that his own apprentice murdered him in his sleep. You orchestrated this entire war. You've killed millions, maybe billions in your quest for power. You embody everything wrong with the Sith philosophy. The smile faded from Palpatine's face.
"You think you can refuse me?"
The temperature in the room seemed to drop.
"You think you can save her without my help?"
I don't know, Anakin admitted. But I know that joining you would make me exactly what the Jedi fear I'll become. And I know that the galaxy doesn't need another Sith Lord. He turned toward the door, mind already calculating. He had to warn the Council, had to tell Obi-Wan, had to...
"If you leave this room, she dies,"
Palpatine said coldly.
"You die, and my new empire rises from the ashes of a failed republic and a blind order."
"Then I guess we'll see if you're right," Anakin said, and walked out. The next hours unfolded like a nightmare in slow motion. Anakin found Obi-Wan first, breathless, urgent. His former master's expression cycled through disbelief, horror, and grim acceptance in the span of seconds. They went to Mace Windu together, and for once, the stern Jedi Master didn't question Anakin's judgment. "Then we end this," Mace said, his voice like stone grinding against stone. "Now." They took a team. Mace, Kit Fisto, Aegon Kolar, Saisi Tin. Obi-Wan stayed behind with Anakin, tasked with alerting the rest of the Council and preparing for whatever came next. Every instinct in Anakin's body screamed that this was wrong, that he should be there, that Mace would... The emergency comm erupted with chaos. The Jedi Temple was under attack. Clone troopers, their brothers in arms for 3 years, were executing Jedi without hesitation or remorse. Across the galaxy, Jedi generals were being gunned down by their own soldiers. Order 66. Palpatine had triggered it the moment he sensed Mace Windu's arrival. His final contingency, his ultimate weapon. If the Jedi came for him, he'd ensure they all fell. Anakin and Obi-Wan sprinted through the temple corridors, lightsabers blazing, deflecting blaster fire from men whose names they knew, whose lives they'd saved 100 times over. The scene was apocalyptic. Younglings fleeing in terror, Jedi Knights falling under waves of coordinated fire, the meditation halls burning. Through the chaos, through his connection to the Force, Anakin felt something shift in the Senate district. Mace's presence flickered, weakened. Palpatine was winning. Without thinking, Anakin made his choice. "Obi-Wan, the younglings!" he shouted. "Get them out! Anakin, what are you?" But Anakin was already running. Force-enhanced speed carrying him through burning corridors and out into Coruscant's traffic lanes. He commandeered a speeder, his mind crystalline with purpose. Mace would die. Palpatine would consolidate power. The Empire would rise. Unless... He burst into the Chancellor's office to find a scene from a nightmare. 3 Jedi corpses lay scattered across the room. Mace Windu, his face twisted with exertion, barely held off Palpatine's relentless assault of Force lightning. The old Jedi Master's lightsaber wavered, his strength failing. "Anakin!" Palpatine's voice cut through the energy storm. "Help me! He's trying to kill me! I'm too weak!" The lie was so transparent, it was almost insulting. Anakin ignited his lightsaber. "You were right about one thing, Chancellor," Anakin said coldly. "The Jedi are hypocrites. But the Sith?" He moved forward. "The Sith are just monsters pretending to be philosophers." Palpatine's mask dropped completely. The lightning shifted, lacing toward Anakin, who batted it aside with his blade. Mace collapsed, gasping but alive.
"Foolish boy,"
Palpatine snarled, his face contorting into something inhuman.
"You could have been my heir. Together we could have ruled."
"I don't want to rule," Anakin said. "I want you dead." The duel was brutal and swift. Palpatine was powerful. Perhaps the most powerful Sith Lord in a millennium. But Anakin was the chosen one, fighting not for power or philosophy, but for something simpler. For future. For Padmé. For his unborn children. For every being in the galaxy who deserved better than Jedi blindness or Sith tyranny. When Palpatine's severed head hit the Senate floor, Anakin felt no triumph, only exhaustion. Behind him, Mace struggled to his feet, his face scarred by lightning, his eyes filled with a complex mixture of gratitude and uncertainty. "You killed him," Mace said quietly. "Yes. The Order will want to know why you came, why you saved me." Anakin looked at the Jedi Master he'd never gotten along with, the man who denied him, doubted him, and ultimately fought beside him. "Because," Anakin said simply, "someone had to choose a different path." But killing Palpatine hadn't stopped Order 66. Across the galaxy, the signal had already been sent, the programming already activated. By the time Anakin and Mace returned to the temple, the damage was catastrophic. Obi-Wan had saved the younglings, evacuating them through the ancient maintenance tunnels. But hundreds of Jedi had fallen. The Order was shattered. Worse, the political machinery Palpatine had built didn't die with him. The Senate, terrified and confused, declared martial law. The military commanders who'd served Palpatine scrambled for power. The Republic was dead in all but name, fracturing into warlord territories and corporate sectors. In the chaos, one thing became clear. The galaxy had no use for Jedi or Sith anymore. Both philosophies had failed. Both had led to this moment of ashes and blood. Padmé found him there, standing amid the shattered columns and scorched stone. She was pregnant, visibly so now, and her eyes were red from crying. She'd been in the Senate when it happened, had watched as emergency powers were invoked, as military commanders seized control, as the accusations against the Jedi spread like wildfire. "What do we do now?" she whispered. Anakin looked at his wife, at the life they'd created growing within her, and something crystallized in his mind. A path forward that he'd been circling for months without seeing it clearly. "We start over," he said. "Not as Jedi, not as Sith, as something new." Word spread slowly at first, then like wildfire through the scattered remnants of both orders. Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, was gathering Force users at a hidden sanctuary on Tython, the ancient homeworld where the Jedi Order had first understood the Force as balance, not binary extremes. They came in ones and twos. Jedi who questioned why their order had failed. Dark side adepts who'd grown tired of the Sith's endless betrayals. Clone War veterans who'd seen too much death in the name of dogma. Obi-Wan came, though it pained him. Ahsoka Tano returned from her wanderings, curious despite herself. Even a few who'd been groomed as Sith Inquisitors slipped away from the fractured Imperial remnants, drawn by the promise of something different. Anakin stood before them in the ancient amphitheater, no longer wearing Jedi robes or Sith black, but simple combat gear, practical, honest. "The Jedi taught us to suppress our emotions," he began, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd, "to deny our attachments, our fears, our loves. They told us this was the path to peace, but look what it produced. An order so afraid of feeling that they couldn't see a Sith Lord standing right in front of them for 13 years. Murmurs rippled through the gathering. Obi-Wan looked troubled, but didn't interrupt. The Sith embraced emotion, but only as fuel for domination. They teach that power justifies itself, that strength is its own morality. But look what it produces. Masters who murder apprentices, apprentices who betray masters, an endless cycle of treachery and destruction. Anakin's eyes swept across the faces before him, young and old, human and alien, light and dark. Both orders failed because they treated the Force as something to be controlled. The Jedi tried to control it through denial. The Sith tried to control it through domination. But the Force isn't a tool. It's not a weapon. It's a living relationship. It responds to us, shapes us, flows through us. We are part of it, not as masters. He raised his hand, and around him, stones began to lift. Not violently, not with strain, but naturally, as if they'd simply decided to float. I'm not offering a new dogma to replace the old ones. I'm offering a truth. The Force is balance, light and dark, passion and peace, chaos and order. We don't need to choose between them. We need to acknowledge both, accept both, and then choose wisely in each moment which aspect serves justice, which serves life, which serves the greater good. An older Jedi, scarred from the temple attack, spoke up. And who decides what the greater good is? That sounds like another excuse for Sith philosophy. We decide, Anakin said simply. Each of us, and we hold each other accountable. The Jedi failed because they hid behind rules and rituals. The Sith failed because they recognized no authority but power. We'll acknowledge both wisdom and strength, both tradition and innovation, both emotion and reason. And when one of us falls too far to either extreme, the others pull them back. It won't work, someone called out. It's never worked. No, Anakin agreed. It hasn't. The Jedi Order of ancient times failed too, collapsed into the schism that created Jedi and Sith. But that doesn't mean the principle was wrong. It means they weren't strong enough to live it. We have a choice. Spend the rest of our lives fighting over which brand of extremism is correct, or accept that the Force itself is telling us there's a third path. Padmé stepped forward then, her presence commanding despite her condition. The Republic failed because it stopped serving its people and started serving its own survival. The Jedi failed for the same reason. If you're truly proposing something new, it can't be about power or philosophy. It has to be about service, about protecting those who can't protect themselves, not from the dark side or the light side, but from tyranny itself. Anakin looked at his wife with undisguised love. She's right. If we're going to do this, it's not about uniting Jedi and Sith ideologies. It's about transcending them, about recognizing that the Force doesn't care about our labels. It cares about balance. The months that followed were anything but peaceful. Imperial remnants, military commanders, Sith loyalists, corporate warlords, all hunted them relentlessly, each claiming to be Palpatine's true successor. Surviving Jedi Masters condemned Anakin as a heretic for killing the Chancellor without trial. Never mind that it saved Mace's life. Darkside cultists tried to seduce his followers back to the old Sith ways, promising power without the burden of Anakin's balance. The galaxy was fragmenting into a dozen small wars, and Anakin's sanctuary found itself in the middle of all of them. But something was growing there, something unprecedented. Jedi learned to channel their emotions without being consumed by them. Former Darksiders learned to temper their passion with wisdom. They trained together, meditated together, argued passionately about the nature of the Force, and nobody got executed for asking the wrong questions. Anakin found himself struggling more than anyone. The dark side called to him constantly, especially when Luke and Leia were born. The fear of losing Padmé, of failing his children, of becoming the very thing he'd fought against. It was a weight that never lifted. One night, Obi-Wan found him standing alone at the edge of a cliff, staring out at Tython's endless forests. I can feel it, you know, Anakin said without turning. The pull, not just to the dark side, to everything, to power, to certainty. to just picking a side and committing to it fully. This balance, it's exhausting, Obi-Wan. It's like standing between two storms and trying not to be pulled into either one. Then why do it? Obi-Wan asked gently. Because the alternative is what we're seeing now. Warlords and Sith cultists fighting over Palpatine's corpse, each one claiming they'll bring order. Or the Council's blindness, pretending the old ways still work. Or worse, becoming the very thing they feared in me. He turned to face his old master, and Obi-Wan saw tears on Anakin's face. I dream about it sometimes. A version of me who chose wrong, who fell completely, who became a monster in black armor, enforcing the Emperor's will across the galaxy, who lost everything. Padmé, you, myself. That version of me is always one bad choice away, Obi-Wan. One moment of weakness. But you didn't make that choice, Obi-Wan said firmly. You're still here, still fighting. Am I fighting? Anakin asked. Or am I just delaying the inevitable? The galaxy sees me as a threat now. To the Jedi, I'm a traitor. To the Sith, I'm a fool. To the Imperial remnants, I'm a terrorist. Maybe they're all right. Anakin, what if balance can't be achieved? What if the Force itself requires extremes, and I'm just too arrogant to accept it? Obi-Wan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Do you remember what Master Qui-Gon used to say? That the Force has a will, and we should trust it even when we don't understand it. He died following that philosophy. He did, Obi-Wan acknowledged. But he also found you. Against all odds, against Council wisdom. He saw something in a slave boy on a desert planet that nobody else could see. Maybe this is what he saw Anakin. Not a Jedi Master, not a Sith Lord, but someone who would have the courage to stand between the storms. Years passed. The galaxy remained fractured. No republic, no empire, just a patchwork of territories controlled by former Republic governors, Imperial warlords, and corporate interests. The rebellion began to form in this chaos, drawing inspiration from both Padmé's political work and Anakin's philosophical framework. Luke and Leia grew up learning a different kind of Force tradition, one that acknowledged fear without letting it rule, that accessed passion without becoming enslaved to it. Anakin watched his children and saw the future. Not the future the Jedi had imagined, where attachments were forbidden and emotion was the enemy. Not the future the Sith craved, where only the strong survived and compassion was weakness. But something else. Something that honored the full spectrum of human experience while still choosing to serve the light. The rebellion didn't worship the Force. They didn't fear it. They simply used it, as naturally as breathing, as one tool among many in the fight for freedom. The turning point came when the largest Imperial remnant faction, led by a council of former Sith Inquisitors and military commanders, launched a coordinated assault on Tython. They came with Star Destroyers, thousands of troops, and dark side adepts who twisted Palpatine's teachings into something even more vicious. Their message was simple: join us or die. Become the Empire's weapon or be destroyed. Anakin stood before his assembled followers. Hundreds now, Jedi and former Sith, warriors and philosophers, young and old. He could feel their fear, their uncertainty, their hope. The battle would be brutal. Many would die. They want me to be Vader, he said quietly. The Jedi feared I'd become Vader. The Sith wanted me to be Vader. Palpatine promised I'd become Vader. He ignited his lightsaber, its blue blade humming in the morning air. So I'll give them Vader. But not the monster they imagined, not the slave, not the tyrant. He looked at his children, now young adults, both powerful in the Force. At Padmé, who stood beside him through everything. At Obi-Wan, who never given up on him even when he probably should have. I'll be Vader the way it should have been. Not a name of terror, but a symbol of transformation. Of choosing the hard path. Of standing between the extremes and refusing to fall to either one. The battle for Tython lasted 3 days. It was vicious, desperate, and costly. But when it ended, the Imperial remnant was broken. Not because Anakin had been more powerful than them, though he was. Not because his philosophy had made him invincible, it hadn't. But because people who fight for balance who acknowledge both their darkness and their light, are harder to break than people who have surrendered to dogma. In the aftermath, standing in the ruins of what had been a training ground, Anakin Skywalker made his final choice. He would never lead a new order, never establish new rules, never create another institution that would calcify into the very thing he'd fought against. Instead, he would teach, share what he'd learned, help others find their own balance, their own path between the storms. Obi-Wan found him there, scarred but alive, looking older than his years, but at peace in a way he'd never been before. "It's done," Anakin said simply. "What now?" Anakin asked. Anakin looked at his old master, then out at the galaxy stretching before them, still broken, still struggling, but no longer trapped between two failed philosophies. "Now, we trust them," Anakin said. "Trust that people don't need Jedi or Sith to tell them what to feel, what to believe, how to connect with the Force. They just need to know it's possible to acknowledge the darkness without surrendering to it, to feel the light without being blinded by it. And if they fail," Obi-Wan asked gently, "if new extremists rise, then their children will have to make the same choice we did." Anakin said, "That's what balance means, Obi-Wan. It's not victory. It's not certainty. It's just the courage to keep choosing, every single day, to stand in the middle of the storm. Balance isn't the absence of darkness. It isn't the suppression of emotion or the denial of attachment. Balance is standing in the storm, acknowledging every impulse toward extremism and choosing wisdom anyway. It's the hardest path, the loneliest path, but it's the only path that honors both the light and the shadow, both passion and peace, both the individual and the collective." Anakin Skywalker didn't unite the Jedi and the Sith. He transcended them both, and in doing so, he gave the galaxy something it had never had before: permission to be fully human, fully flawed, and still choose the light. The Force doesn't belong to the Jedi. It doesn't belong to the Sith. It belongs to all of us. And the choice of what to do with it, that choice is ours to make, every single day. If you enjoyed this journey into an alternative Star Wars universe, where destiny takes unexpected turns and balance means something entirely different, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We explore the infinite possibilities hidden within the galaxy far, far away, asking the questions that reshape everything you thought you knew. The Force has many paths. Come discover them with us.